The courtyard glowed softly under Virella's twin moons. The alien plants sway gently, casting shimmering reflections across the crystalline fountains. Milo had returned once again, careful and deliberate, but this time he sensed a presence behind him. "Milo," Tara's voice called softly. She stepped into the courtyard, her eyes scanning him with concern and determination. "We need to talk." Milo turned quickly, startled, and for a moment felt a twinge of guilt. He had kept his visits to the artifact a secret, hoping to understand it before sharing with anyone. Yet now, Tara's calm but firm gaze reminded him that secrecy could not last forever. "What is it, Tara?" Milo asked cautiously. He kept his distance, though the glowing plants and fountains made the space feel intimate, almost alive. "You've been acting differently," Tara said, walking closer. "You spend too much time here alone. I can feel it. Whatever is drawing you in is not ordinary. You're taking risks, Milo. We can't ignore this." Milo swallowed hard. He wanted to tell her everything, but he also feared the artifact's power if revealed too soon. "There's something here," he admitted. "Something I don't fully understand. It's calling to me." Tara nodded slowly, stepping nearer to the central fountain. "I know. And I don't think it's bad. But it's testing you, Milo. You have to face it, and not just alone. Power like this, knowledge like this, can overwhelm anyone if they let it." The artifact beneath the courtyard pulsed more brightly at their conversation. Milo felt it vibrate through the ground and into his feet, as if it were responding to their words. The energy swirled around him, whispering temptations he had struggled to resist for days. "Take it. Use it. You can control more than anyone ever has." Milo's heart pounded. He felt the allure, the promise of knowledge and power. For a moment, he imagined reaching out, touching the artifact, and learning everything it could teach. The visions he had glimpsed before, distant worlds, civilizations, energy beyond imagination flickered in his mind. But then he looked at Tara. Her eyes were calm, steady, full of trust and concern. He realized that the artifact's temptation was strongest when faced alone. By sharing the moment, by acknowledging another human being, he could resist its pull. Milo took a deep breath and stepped back from the central fountain, grounding himself. I understand now," Milo said quietly. "It's testing me. Not just to see if I take it, but to see how I choose. I can't let desire control me. I have to think of the team, of everyone here." Tara smiled faintly, relief in her expression. "Exactly. You're stronger than the artifact alone. It can tempt, but it cannot take away what you already have: your mind, your courage, your wisdom." The energy in the courtyard pulsed one last time, then softened. The glowing plants seemed to shimmer more gently, and the fountains sparkled with calm reflections. The whispers faded to a gentle hum, as if acknowledging Milo's decision. He felt a deep warmth in his chest, a sense of clarity and insight he had not experienced before. Milo and Tara walked slowly through the courtyard, side by side. "You've learned something important," Tara said softly. "Human strength isn't just curiosity or intelligence. It's the ability to resist temptation when it's greatest. It's knowing when to act, and when to hold back." Milo nodded. "I realize now that this artifact, it's not about what it can give me. It's about what I choose to do with what it shows me. Knowledge and power without wisdom can be dangerous. But with care, it can teach something valuable." The two of them stopped in front of one of the fountains, watching the water shimmer. Milo felt a sense of peace he had not known in days. He understood that the artifact's tests were not meant to trap him, but to strengthen him. It had pushed him to confront desire, responsibility, and restraint, the qualities that made humans capable of facing challenges no matter how extraordinary. Tomorrow, Milo said finally, we'll study it together. Carefully, slowly, and with respect. I don't want to take anything for granted or risk what we have here. Terra nodded, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. Good. That's the right choice. The artifact can wait. The lessons it gives are more important than rushing to learn everything at once. As the night deepened, the courtyard remained serene. The glowing plants, the crystalline fountains, and the soft hum of energy created a sense of harmony. Milo realized that true strength was not in yielding to temptation, but in understanding it, confronting it, and making the right choice. He felt grateful not just for his own insight, but for having a friend like Terra to help him see clearly. For the first time, Milo sensed that he could face the artifact without fear or weakness. He had passed its first real test, not by avoiding it, but by confronting it wisely and choosing restraint over reckless curiosity. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he now understood that human determination, courage, and judgment could overcome even the most powerful temptations. And deep in the courtyard, the artifact pulsed softly, as if acknowledging Milo's choice, waiting patiently for the next lesson, the next challenge, and the next demonstration of human wisdom. The starship Aurora glided silently through the violet sky of Virella, its engines humming a soft, steady rhythm. Human explorers had not visited this planet before, and the crew could not hide their excitement. Among them, Milo, a young engineer with curious green eyes, watched the horizon with wonder. He had spent his life fixing machines and solving problems, but nothing had prepared him for this: an entire world, untouched and mysterious. The ship landed on a flat plateau near the center of the alien outpost. The outpost itself was strange yet beautiful. Buildings rose like shards of crystal, reflecting the light of Virella's twin suns. In the middle of the compound was a courtyard, surrounded by towers of glass and stone. Strange plants with glowing leaves filled the space, and water flowed in small channels that shimmered with colors Milo had never seen. The courtyard seemed almost alive, as if it were watching the newcomers carefully. Milo stepped out of the ship, his boots crunching on the silvery sand. He felt a pull, a subtle attraction to the courtyard. Look at this, he whispered to Terra, the medic of the team, pointing to the glowing fountains. Terra smiled, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. It's beautiful, Milo. But remember, we have work to do. The outpost is our priority. Milo nodded, but he could not take his eyes off the courtyard. Every step he took toward it felt natural, like he was being drawn by something beyond reason. The rest of the crew was busy unloading supplies, setting up temporary shelters, and calibrating instruments to study the planet. But Milo lingered near the edge of the courtyard, studying the strange plants and shimmering water. Careful, said Lee, the team leader, noticing Milo's fascination. This place is ancient. We don't know what we might trigger. Milo smiled faintly. He appreciated Lee's caution, but inside, a spark of curiosity had already ignited. He wanted to explore, to understand every secret of this strange place. As the day passed, the team settled into routines. Machines hummed in the background, and scanners swept across the land, recording data about the environment. Milo, however, could not shake the feeling that the courtyard held something more than just beauty. Something waited for him there, something he could not yet name. When night fell, Virella's sky turned a deep shade of indigo, dotted with unfamiliar stars. The twin moons cast soft light across the courtyard, making the plants glow even brighter. Milo found himself standing at the edge of the fountains, mesmerized by the play of light and water. He could hear the gentle trickle of water and the faint hum of energy that seemed to pulse from the courtyard itself. It was calming, but it also stirred something deep inside him, a mixture of curiosity, excitement, and a strange sense of destiny. Tara approached quietly. "Milo, the rest of the team is resting. You should too," she said gently. Her calm voice anchored him, reminding him of reality. "I know," Milo replied softly. "But I feel something here. Like the courtyard is calling me." Tara frowned slightly but did not press further. She knew Milo well enough to understand that once his curiosity was sparked, he could not ignore it. "Just don't do anything reckless," she said before turning away. Milo stayed behind as the others returned to their quarters. The courtyard was now almost completely still, save for the occasional ripple of water in the fountains and the gentle sway of glowing plants. He stepped closer, noticing patterns in the light that he could not explain. Some of the plants seemed to move when he looked at them directly, adjusting as if they were aware of his presence. Milo blinked, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him, but the feeling remained. He knelt near the edge of one fountain, reaching out his hand to touch the shimmering water. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, a warm sensation ran through him, like a soft current of energy. Milo pulled back slightly, startled, but also exhilarated. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew one thing: this courtyard was not just decoration. It had a purpose, and he wanted to discover it. Hours passed as Milo explored quietly. He mapped the courtyard in his mind, noting every glowing plant, every ripple in the fountains, and every subtle vibration in the air. The more he observed, the more he realized that the courtyard seemed alive in a way he could not fully understand. It was inviting him, challenging him, promising something if he only dared to go further. Finally, as the first light of Virella's suns began to rise, Milo stood in the center of the courtyard, breathing in the glowing energy. A sense of awe filled him, mixed with a thrill of anticipation. The outpost, the planet, the courtyard, everything seemed to whisper to him that this was only the beginning of a journey unlike any he had ever known. And deep inside, Milo knew that once he stepped fully into the mystery of the courtyard, his life, and perhaps the fate of the team, would never be the same again. Night had fully fallen over the outpost on Virella, and the twin moons hung low in the dark sky. The stars were bright and cold, distant witnesses to the strange world below. Milo could not sleep. His mind kept returning to the courtyard, to the glowing plants and shimmering fountains. Something about that place called to him, softly, insistently, like a voice he could not hear but could feel. Finally, he slipped out of his quarters, careful not to wake anyone. The air outside was cool and filled with the faint scent of alien flora. As he walked toward the courtyard, the ground seemed to hum under his boots, as if the planet itself sensed his presence. When he reached the courtyard, Milo paused, taking in the quiet beauty. The plants glowed softly, their light reflecting in the crystal channels of water. The entire space seemed alive, almost breathing. As he stepped closer to the center, Milo began to hear its soft whispers carried on the night air. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the sounds were different. They were gentle, melodic, almost like voices speaking just beyond comprehension. "Milo," one seemed to say. "Come closer, see more." The words were faint, yet clear enough to stir a thrill in his chest. He looked around. The courtyard was empty. No one else was near, yet the whispers continued. He felt a shiver of both fear and excitement. The voices were not threatening, but they were tempting him, urging him to explore further. Milo hesitated for a moment, remembering Tara's warning from earlier. "Don't do anything reckless," she had said. But the curiosity in him was stronger than caution. He took another step forward. The glowing plants seemed to lean slightly toward him, their leaves brushing against the air in a way that felt intentional. Tiny sparks of light flickered along the fountains, dancing in patterns Milo could not understand. He reached out to touch one of the plants, and a warm tingling ran through his fingertips, spreading up his arm. The whispering voices grew louder, more insistent. "Discover, understand, you can know." Milo's heart raced. He knelt beside a fountain, tracing the water with his hand. The moment his skin touched the surface, the world seemed to shift. Colors grew brighter, sounds became sharper, and for a second, he felt as if he could see the energy flowing through everything: the plants, the water, even the air itself. It was beautiful and overwhelming. He gasped and pulled back, staring around the courtyard in awe. "Hello," he called softly, unsure if he was speaking to anyone or just to himself. The whispers continued, but now they seemed to respond. "You are ready, you can see." Milo's pulse quickened. He knew this was more than a simple illusion. Something within the courtyard wanted him to learn, to understand, maybe even to touch something hidden deeper beneath the surface. Suddenly, Milo noticed shadows moving along the edges of the courtyard. They were not like normal shadows. They twisted and shimmered, following him as he moved. Each one seemed connected to the glowing plants, almost like guardians or guides. Despite the strangeness, Milo did not feel fear. The shadows were part of the courtyard's energy, part of the same presence that drew him here. He took a careful step toward a shadow, and it shifted to meet him. He held out his hand, and for a brief moment, he felt as if the shadow was reaching back, testing him. The whispers encouraged him. "Step closer, see deeper." Milo's mind swirled with possibilities. The courtyard held secrets, powers, knowledge perhaps beyond human understanding. He felt a mixture of wonder and caution, knowing that curiosity could be both dangerous and rewarding. Milo spent hours exploring, guided by the whispers and the moving shadows. He traced every fountain, studied every plant, and even touched the ground in some places where the light glowed strongest. Each interaction sent waves of warmth and energy through him, reinforcing the feeling that the courtyard was alive and aware of his presence. He felt as if it were trying to communicate, to test him, to draw him into its mysteries. Yet even as he marveled, Milo could not forget the lessons he had learned on other missions. Power, knowledge, and temptation were not gifts to take lightly. The whispers were inviting, but they were also a challenge. He had to remain focused, to explore carefully, and to resist being carried away by desire or pride. As the first hints of dawn touched the sky, the courtyard seemed to calm. The shadows receded, the plant's glow softened, and the whispers faded to a gentle hum. Milo stood in the center, breathing deeply, his mind alive with thoughts and questions. He knew the courtyard had more to show him, but he also understood that the journey would require patience, courage, and wisdom. Milo left the courtyard quietly as the sun rose, carrying with him the memory of the glowing plants, the shimmering fountains, and the whispering shadows. He knew that he had only scratched the surface of the mystery, but the pull of the courtyard was strong, and he was already planning his next visit. Something incredible awaited him here, and Milo was determined to discover it carefully, and without losing himself in the process. The outpost stirred to life around him, unaware of the secret calling that had begun to shape Milo's nights. But he could feel it in his bones. The courtyard was more than it appeared, and human curiosity, courage, and determination would soon be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. The next day, Milo could hardly focus on his work. He repaired machines, checked instruments, and performed routine tasks, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the courtyard. Every moment away from it felt incomplete. By midday, he decided he could not wait any longer. He needed to explore further, to see what secrets the courtyard might be hiding. After lunch, when most of the crew were occupied, Milo slipped out of the main building and headed toward the glowing courtyard. The plants shimmered under the light of Virella's twin suns, their colors even more vivid than at night. Milo felt a strange sense of anticipation, a mixture of excitement and caution. He could almost hear the faint whispers from the previous night, urging him onward. He began examining the courtyard more closely than ever before. The fountains, the plants, the crystalline walkways all seemed ordinary at first glance. But Milo's sharp eyes noticed tiny patterns in the stones surrounding one of the larger fountains. The patterns were faint, almost like ancient symbols carved into the ground. Milo knelt and traced them with his fingers. To his surprise, one of the stones shifted slightly under his touch, revealing a small, hidden latch. Heart racing, Milo pressed it. With a soft click, a hidden panel slid aside, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. A cool, fragrant air wafted up from below. Milo paused, taking a deep breath. "This must be it," he whispered to himself. "Something important is down there." He grabbed a portable light from his belt and began to descend the stairs. The staircase opened into a circular chamber beneath the courtyard. The walls were smooth, polished, and faintly glowing. In the center of the room stood an object that seemed to hum with energy, a crystalline artifact resting on a pedestal of unknown metal. The artifact pulsed with soft light, and Milo felt it calling to him in a way he could not ignore. He stepped closer, his hands trembling slightly. The closer he got, the more he felt a warmth spreading through his body, a strange connection to the object. It was as if the artifact recognized him, or perhaps understood his curiosity. Milo reached out, and the moment his fingers touched the crystal, a flood of visions filled his mind. He saw distant planets, bustling alien cities, and swirling energy fields. He glimpsed civilizations rising and falling, stars being born and dying, and forces of nature he could scarcely imagine. It was overwhelming, but not frightening. Milo felt a strange sense of clarity, as if the artifact was sharing knowledge directly with him. At the same time, he sensed a challenge. The artifact seemed to test him, probing his thoughts and desires. It whispered possibilities, knowledge beyond any human understanding, the power to shape technology, even to influence the environment around him. Milo felt the pull of temptation. The voices were soft but insistent. "Take this. Use it. You can be more than you ever imagined." Milo hesitated. He remembered Tara's advice about caution and restraint. The artifact was clearly powerful, perhaps even dangerous. But the allure was strong. Every instinct in him screamed to explore further, to learn everything it could offer. Yet another part of him reminded him of responsibility. Curiosity alone was not enough. He had to be careful, to think not just of himself but of the team and the outpost. He withdrew his hands slightly, breathing deeply. The visions faded, leaving him with a lingering warmth and a sense of wonder. Milo realized that the artifact was not simply a tool, it was alive in some way, aware, intelligent, and testing him. He could sense the challenge clearly now. The artifact offered temptation, but also a lesson. Those who approached it with selfish ambition might be consumed by it. Those who approached it with respect and caution could gain wisdom. Milo spent hours in the chamber, observing the artifact without touching it again. He studied its shape, the flow of light within it, and the patterns on the pedestal. Each detail seemed meaningful, as if the artifact was designed to teach something to those who approached it with care. Finally, he decided to return to the surface. He carefully replaced the panel over the staircase and climbed back into the courtyard. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the glowing plants. Milo felt a mixture of awe, excitement, and responsibility. He had discovered something incredible, something that could change the course of their mission and perhaps much more. As he walked back to the outpost building, he thought of Terra and the rest of the team. They had no idea what he had found. Milo knew he would have to be patient and cautious. The artifact could not be revealed recklessly. Its knowledge and power had to be approached carefully, with respect and intelligence. That night, as the moons rose over Virella, Milo lay awake in his quarters, thinking of the artifact. The whispers from the courtyard echoed softly in his mind, reminding him that this was only the beginning. He knew that the artifact would continue to test him, and that his choices in the coming days would shape not just his fate, but perhaps the fate of the outpost and maybe even humanity itself. For the first time, Milo understood something profound. Human curiosity and determination were powerful, but true strength lay in restraint, wisdom, and the courage to face temptation without losing oneself. And deep inside, he felt ready to meet whatever challenges the artifact would present. The days following Milo's discovery of the artifact were tense, even if the rest of the team did not yet know the reason. Milo continued his work with the crew, repairing machines and calibrating instruments, but his mind was never far from the hidden chamber beneath the courtyard. Every quiet moment, every pause in his tasks, reminded him of the glowing crystal and the visions it had shown him. Terra began to notice subtle changes in Milo. He was quieter than usual, often lost in thought, and his eyes sometimes seemed to focus on something far beyond the walls of the outpost. "Milo," she said one afternoon while checking the medical supplies, "is everything okay? You seem distracted." Milo smiled faintly, hiding the full truth. "I'm fine, Terra. Just thinking about the readings from the scanners. There's a lot to study here." Terra nodded slowly, sensing that there was more to his distraction than he was letting on. She trusted Milo and respected his curiosity, but she also had a strong sense of caution. "Remember," she said gently, "curiosity is good, but we have to be careful. This outpost, this planet, it's full of unknowns. Don't let it take over your mind." Milo nodded again, but inside, he was torn. The artifact called to him constantly, even when he tried to focus on other tasks. Its whispers seemed softer during the day, but still persistent, reminding him of knowledge just out of reach. Sometimes he felt excitement, imagining the discoveries he could make. Other times, he felt fear, realizing the power he might be handling without understanding it fully. One evening, after the crew had finished their daily routines, Milo returned to the courtyard. The plants glowed in soft shades of blue and green, the fountains shimmered in the dim light, and the air was filled with a subtle hum. Milo felt the pull again, the artifact calling him, tempting him to return to the hidden chamber. As he stepped closer to the fountain, he heard the whispers clearly, almost as if the crystal itself were speaking. "You can know everything, you can change the world, reach further." Milo's heart raced. The temptation was stronger than ever. He wanted to run to the hidden chamber, touch the artifact, and absorb all the knowledge it offered. Yet, he also remembered Tara's words, and the sense of responsibility that weighed on him. Milo's conflict was visible in every movement. He walked in circles around the courtyard, debating with himself. Part of him wanted to give in, to take the shortcut to power and understanding. Another part reminded him of the consequences. What if the artifact was dangerous? What if he acted selfishly and harmed the team or the outpost? The tension built within him, pulling him in opposite directions. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him. "Milo," Tara said softly, stepping into the courtyard. "I wanted to check on you. You've been spending a lot of time here." Milo turned, surprised to see her. Her eyes were full of concern, but also calm determination. "I'm fine, Tara," he said, trying to hide his inner struggle. Tara shook her head gently. "No, you're not. I can see it. There's something here affecting you. Is it the courtyard? Or something else?" Milo hesitated. He wanted to tell her the truth, but he knew it was not yet safe. "It's complicated," he admitted. "There's something I discovered, but I'm not sure I understand it yet." Tara stepped closer, her voice firm but kind. "Milo, whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. We are a team. You can trust me." Her words struck a chord deep inside him. He realized that the artifact, tempting as it was not the only thing that mattered. Friendship, trust, and teamwork were equally powerful and perhaps more important than any crystal or vision. Milo took a deep breath and made a choice. He would continue to study the artifact, but carefully, cautiously, and without letting desire control him. He would not be reckless. The temptation was strong, but he would rely on reason and responsibility, and he would involve Tara when the time was right. The rest of the evening, Milo and Tara walked through the courtyard together. The glowing plants and shimmering fountains seemed to soften in their presence, as if approving his decision. Milo felt a sense of balance returning to him. He was still curious, still eager to explore the mysteries of the artifact, but he was no longer alone in his journey. For the first time since discovering the hidden chamber, Milo felt both excitement and calm. The artifact remained powerful, full of unknown potential, but he knew he could resist its immediate temptations. He had learned an important lesson: human strength was not just in knowledge or power, but in the ability to make the right choice, even when tempted. As night fell, Milo returned to his quarters, thinking of the courtyard and the artifact below it. He knew the challenges were only beginning, but he felt ready. With caution, curiosity, and the support of his friends, he would face the trials ahead and perhaps unlock the true secrets of Virella without losing himself in the process. The following days at the Virella outpost carried an unusual tension. Machines that had worked perfectly before began to malfunction. Energy readings from the scanners fluctuated unpredictably, and small accidents occurred during routine maintenance. At first, the team thought it was simple equipment failure, but Milo knew better. The disturbances seemed linked to the artifact and his visits to the courtyard. Milo tried to keep his distance, visiting the hidden chamber only briefly, but the artifact's pull was strong. Each time he entered, it seemed to respond to his presence, pulsing more brightly and sending waves of warmth and energy through his body. The more he resisted temptation, the stronger the feeling grew that the artifact was testing him. Every small disruption in the outpost felt like a warning. Tara noticed Milo's concern, though he tried to hide it. Machines are acting strangely, she said one morning while adjusting a power conduit. I don't know why, but something isn't right. Milo nodded, frowning. I've noticed it too. Maybe it's the planet's energy. Some unknown field affecting our instruments. Lee, the team leader, called a meeting. We need to identify the source of these problems, he said firmly. If the equipment fails completely, we could be in serious danger. The team worked together, checking every system carefully, but the anomalies remained. Milo quietly observed, knowing the truth of their origin but not ready to reveal it yet. That night, Milo returned to the courtyard. The glowing plants reflected in his eyes, and the fountains shimmered invitingly. He moved with care, feeling the familiar pull of the artifact. It hummed softly, almost as if encouraging him to return to the hidden chamber. He knelt near the fountain, tracing the stones once more. Every instinct told him to stay away, yet curiosity and responsibility warred within him. As he stepped onto the hidden panel, it shifted easily under his weight, revealing the staircase below. Milo descended slowly, the soft glow from the walls lighting his way. In the chamber, the artifact pulsed with a brighter light than ever before, and the visions returned. He glimpsed distant worlds, strange civilizations, and forces of nature beyond human imagination. The artifact seemed alive, aware of him, and waiting for him to act. Milo reached out, but stopped just before touching it. The artifact hummed urgently, sending a warm sensation through his fingertips. He felt tempted to grasp it fully, to absorb its knowledge and power, but he remembered Tara's words, Lee's advice, and his own sense of responsibility. Pulling back, he focused on observing rather than touching. The artifact seemed to respond, pulsing gently as if acknowledging his restraint. Milo realized that the challenges ahead would test him further, but he also understood that patience and wisdom were his allies. He made careful notes of the artifact's energy patterns, trying to learn without succumbing to temptation. Back on the surface, the outpost seemed calmer. Milo had hoped that by limiting his contact, the disturbances might stop, but subtle disruptions continued. Power fluctuations caused minor malfunctions in the instruments, and automated systems occasionally halted unexpectedly. The team grew increasingly uneasy, discussing the anomalies at every opportunity. One evening, Tara approached Milo again, her brow furrowed. Something is affecting the outpost. I can feel it. You've been spending a lot of time in the courtyard alone. Is there something you're not telling me? Milo hesitated, knowing he could not reveal the full truth without risking the artifact's exposure. I think it's the energy of the planet, he said cautiously. Maybe certain areas amplify it, causing the machines to behave strangely. Tara studied him carefully, sensing that his explanation was only partly true. Be careful, Milo. Whatever it is, don't let curiosity cloud your judgment. You're not the only one here. We all depend on each other. Milo nodded silently, appreciating her concern. He knew that the artifact's power was not meant for reckless use. Every choice he made could affect the entire team, and possibly the mission itself. Over the next few days, Milo continued to observe and study the artifact cautiously. He recorded patterns, mapped energy flows, and planned his visits carefully. The whispers in the chamber remained soft but persistent, reminding him of the temptation that awaited with every step. Milo realized that human determination, patience, and self-control would be tested more than ever. Though he longed to explore further, he also began to understand something vital: the artifact's true power was not only in knowledge or visions, but in the lessons it offered about responsibility. Every small consequence in the outpost, the machines, the accidents, the energy surges, was a reminder that power without care could be dangerous. Milo's challenge was to balance curiosity with caution, exploration with wisdom, and desire with responsibility. As night fell, Milo stood again in the courtyard, gazing at the glowing plants and fountains. The artifact below pulsed softly, waiting for his next visit. He knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, that the temptation would grow stronger, and that the consequences of even small mistakes could be serious. But he also felt ready. Milo had learned that human courage, intelligence, and careful judgment were more important than immediate power. And with that understanding, he felt the first true sense of control over the challenges to come. The days after Milo's confrontation with Terra passed in quiet reflection. The outpost had settled into a steady rhythm, and the minor malfunctions that had troubled the team seemed to lessen. Milo no longer visited the artifact in secret. Instead, he spent time observing the courtyard carefully, always aware of its energy and its silent lessons. Terra joined him one morning, walking slowly among the glowing plants and crystal fountains. "It feels different now," she said. "Calmer, somehow." Milo nodded. "It does. I think the artifact recognizes restraint, not just curiosity. It responds to care and respect, not haste or desire." Together, they made a plan to study the artifact with caution. They would record patterns, energy flows, and the strange visions it offered without touching it recklessly. Their goal was not to control it or take power from it, but to understand it, and through understanding, learn what it had to teach about the universe and themselves. Over the following weeks, Milo and Terra explored the courtyard as a team. They discovered subtle interactions between the glowing plants, the fountains, and the hidden energies of the chamber below. Each observation deepened their understanding. Milo found himself marveling not just at the artifact, but at the courtyard as a whole, the way it seemed alive, intelligent, and patient, testing those who entered until they proved they were worthy. The artifact remained pulsing quietly, its soft glow a constant presence beneath the courtyard. Milo realized that it had never truly been about the visions or knowledge it could give him. The true lesson was about human qualities: patience, wisdom, courage, and the ability to make the right choice when tempted. In this, humans could face forces beyond comprehension and emerge stronger, not weaker. One afternoon, Lee came to the courtyard, noticing Milo and Terra deep in discussion. "You two spend a lot of time here," he said, a note of curiosity in his voice. Milo smiled and nodded. "We're learning. There's much to observe, and the courtyard teaches more than just facts. It teaches responsibility, teamwork, and control." Lee studied the glowing plants and fountains, sensing the quiet energy in the space. "I see," he said thoughtfully. "It's like this place is alive, testing us." Milo agreed. "Exactly. It's not something to conquer or use recklessly. It's something to respect, to learn from." The team gradually learned to work together, balancing their curiosity with caution. Each crew member respected the courtyard and the artifact, observing without rushing or giving in to temptation. Milo felt proud not of power, but of restraint, and of the human qualities that had allowed them to manage the challenge successfully. As the weeks passed, Milo often walked alone in the courtyard at night, reflecting on what he had learned. The glowing plants seemed to sway more gently now, and the fountains sparkled with a calm, welcoming energy. He thought about how human courage and intelligence had allowed him to resist temptation, and how trust in friends like Terra had strengthened him. The artifact had tested him, but he had emerged wiser and more confident. One evening, As the twin moons rose, Milo stood in the center of the courtyard and looked down toward the hidden chamber. The artifact pulsed softly, and for a moment, he felt its presence as clearly as ever. But instead of longing or temptation, Milo felt gratitude. The artifact had not been a challenge to conquer, but a guide, a teacher showing that humans were capable of extraordinary things when they acted wisely and responsibly. He turned to Terra, who had joined him once again. "We've learned so much," Milo said quietly. "Not just about the artifact, but about ourselves. About what humans can do when we combine curiosity with care, courage with restraint." Terra smiled, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "And that's the greatest lesson of all. This courtyard, the artifact, they remind us that humans are not just capable of knowledge or strength. We're capable of making the right choices, even when it's hardest." Milo nodded. The courtyard seemed to shimmer in agreement, its light reflecting not just the alien world around them, but the potential within humans themselves. He knew the artifact would continue to test visitors in the future, just as it had tested him. But he also knew that humanity's greatest strength lay in the qualities that could not be measured by visions or energy alone: wisdom, patience, courage, and integrity. As Milo and Terra walked back to the outpost, the glowing plants and fountains remained serene, peaceful, and alive with quiet energy. The artifact rested beneath the courtyard, its lessons waiting patiently for those who would approach it with respect. The courtyard had revealed its secrets gently, teaching that temptation could be met with strength, and that true power came from understanding and restraint. Milo paused for one last look at the courtyard. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. The artifact had tested him, challenged him, and tempted him, but in the end, it had shown him the extraordinary potential within humanity. And as the twin moons reflected on the calm fountains and glowing plants, Milo knew that humans, with their courage and wisdom, could face any challenge, even forces far beyond their understanding, and emerge stronger than ever. The courtyard stood as a silent guardian and teacher, a reminder that human resilience and morality were as powerful as any artifact or vision. And in that quiet, glowing space, Milo understood the true legacy of the courtyard: that humans, when guided by curiosity, courage, and care, could rise above temptation, conquer challenges, and shine brilliantly in the universe.